Hi, and welcome to another episode of alpha-tec Unbox It. Today we are going to be taking a look at the TesiraFORTÉ X product range, and more specifically the X400. Let's take a look. Okay, so here we have the X400, and if we turn it up, and we're going to just get into the box immediately, and if we open it up, you can see it neatly presents the X400 directly. You'll also see a little bracket sticking out there. So if I then just open up the unit, then you'll see the whole unit comes out like that. So there you go. Take that out of the wrapper, and we'll talk about this bad boy in just a second. Furthermore, inside the box, you also have your power supply. Get that out the way. We have our power supply and our power cable. And then we have a little packet of all the accessories, all your connectors, USB cable, some plugs for mounting, and some cable ties to tie equipment or cables directly onto the back here, and yeah, some screws to mount it, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second. So let me throw this all back into the box and get that out the way for the moment. Okay, so off to the main unit. As you can see, it's a fairly compact unit. These are the new X series, as I mentioned, from Tesira product family, so TesiraFORTÉ X. It's the latest edition on the Biamp DSPs, and it's quite powerful. It is probably their most advanced, most compact DSP to date that they've developed. So it shipped, as you can see it, mounted already on its bracket. It's a half U rack space unit and 1U high. And then, as I mentioned, the bracket itself is there for two reasons. You can obviously mount it in a tray in a rack, or you can mount it upside down under your table, or you can even mount it vertically behind your monitor, as this system has been designed to be really compact and makes for easy installation, right? And just talking about the function of the unit, some indicator lights on the front, your launch button, which we'll talk about in just a second, and that's part of making the system really, really easy to use. On the back, you have some basic IOs, and we'll start off on the one side here. That's your power input for the unit, and then you have some GPIOs. You have 2 inputs and 2 outputs, and those are all analog. Then you have your USB connection, and then you have a series of 5 network ports. So the first port here on the one side is your master port. That is control and AVB and Dante, which I'll speak to about in a minute, on that port. And then the other 4 ports are exactly the same, but they also feature PoE plus power. So the key thing here is that you can power your AVB and or Dante devices that are PoE capable directly from the unit. You don't need any external or extra power supplies to power those devices. So how that would work, let's say for instance you have some of the Biamp Parlay microphones. Your Parlay's main mic box would get its power directly from here. If you take, for instance, a TTM or a TCM-A, your TCM-A at least will have your amplifier power also directly from the TCM-XA, and that's basically then one cable from your TesiraFORTÉ X all the way up into the roof. You plug in your TCM-XA module. From there you plug in your 1 or 2 microphones, and you're pretty much done. So you power your mics and your speakers all directly from the unit through the Parlay mic box. And so that makes for, again, easy installation there, as I mentioned. Then you have your spaces here to connect your cables on and actually tie them down with cable ties. Now, the trick or the key thing with the new Forte X line, and as I mentioned, this is the X400. There's also an X800 and an X1600. And that's very easy to remember what those numbers dictate. And a 400 has 4 echo cancellation channels, 800 has 8 channels, and 1600 has 16 channels. So that means you can go 4, 8, or 16 parlay microphones per box or per device. But the trick there is this new launch button on the front. And that is an advanced auto setup algorithm that Biamp has developed for the TesiraFORTÉ X line. You might remember the Devio product line that also has an auto tuning setup function or an auto tuning button. And this is now an advanced version of that. Essentially, when you've connected all AVB devices or all Biamp devices, Biamp peripheral devices like your microphones, or so the Parlay Mic series or the EX-UBT USB expander, that all then becomes capable of being managed by Launch. So what Launch would do is it would detect all the devices, configure the DSP for those devices, how many ever microphones or amplifier channels or whatever the case is that you have, and it would essentially then load the DSP program, run through all the measurements of the room, configure the EQ, configure the configure the EQ of the mics and the speakers, set the sound levels, set your acoustic echo cancellation, check whether you actually have inputs or outputs on the device itself, and you're pretty much done. And that process is the push of a button, and it takes a few seconds or a few minutes to complete, depending on how many devices you have. Obviously, the more devices, the longer the setup process is going to take. Now, the secondary thing to what Launch will provide you is that Launch is now full Teams certified. That means that when you have connected your system up, you've pressed the Launch button, the system has done its thing, it's configured and set up your room, then your room is then MTR certified. It's then a Microsoft Teams room certified system. And so Launch is the first algorithm or software-based system or solution included on the Biamp TesiraFORTÉ X hardware that will then allow you to have a full certified Microsoft Teams room. So Biamp has gone through some extensive testing and setup with Microsoft to get that system certified and working correctly. So yeah, there you have it. Very compact, nice looking box, very sleek. Like I mentioned, fits on the table, fits behind your monitors in the room. It all really depends on how you set the system up. If you want some more information about this, check out some of our other videos where we also speak about Launch and some of the other functions that are coming to this platform soon. So check out our interview we had with Joris recently from Biamp. And also don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.